Welcome back to the Community Action Podcast. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jamie Carney, and with me today is Gail Lombardi and Jesse Quintana. We are family coaches and facilitators for the Future Story Initiative. The Future Story Initiative is a place where community members can receive information, gain skills, and receive support while working on exiting poverty. Today, we're having a conversation about the cycle of change. If you were here with us for our last video on the personal leadership, you heard us talking about personal inventory and identifying our own personal strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. If you've identified some changes that you would like to make, then stick with us on this topic of the cycle of change. It could be helpful.
Yeah, so the cycle of change. I know for me, this wasn't my favorite topic in the past, but how do you guys feel when you hear the word change?
I really enjoy change. I'm always trying to think of ways to better myself, improve myself, and so I am often thinking about how to change.
So you like change then?
I do.
Because I'm on the opposite spectrum.
Yeah.
I honestly, when I hear the word change, it gives me anxiety. I like a routine. I like my routine to be like, everything's the same. Don't get me wrong. I like to be spontaneous and I like adventure and stuff like that. However, like if I'm at work or something and they say, okay, we're going to make some changes around here, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like full on anxiety already.
Right.
So, and for me, when I think about the word change, it's like there's like this stigma with the word change, like change equals bad. You know,
Change
like
equals hard
rarely
work.
equals
Unfamiliar.
good. You know what I
Unfamiliar.
mean?
Scary.
It's never like,
Yeah.
here comes some change. All right, let's rock it. You know what I mean? It's the opposite for me. What do you think, Gail?
It's not predictable. Well, I think I'm in both spectrums. It all depends on what's going on. But the one thing that I have noticed with being the older person in the group is that natural change happens and things you can't control. And so you have to look at, and some are scary. And some are unfamiliar, and some I don't even like. And then there's others exciting where, okay, this is happening, so I'm going to grow through it. So it all depends, I guess, where my emotional intelligence is for the day. But I like knowing what's going to happen in the future. So I'm going to lean your way, Jesse, and say, yeah, I'm not. I like everything status quo. I like to grow, but I want to be in control. So yeah, and that doesn't always happen with the change.
So I think sometimes there's going to be change that happens, right? That's out of our control. We can't do anything about
Right.
it. It's inevitable. There's going to be change. That's just part of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we're talking about today is more of that intentional, like, decision to make a personal change in your life.
Personal growth. Uh-huh.
And so we're going to run through the cycle of change and what that is. And we've already kind of talked about it a little bit here because me and Jamie, and you know, you're on Team Jesse, so but we've kind of talked about it a little bit already because there's two beginning cycles of change that start, you know, that is obviously the pre-contemplation, which is where I'm at, which is that not thinking about change. It's out of my mind. I'm not really thinking about it. You know what I mean? And then there's Jamie, who's kind of in that contemplation stage where she's thinking about it all the time because she likes the change, you know?
Right.
So let's take a look at the cycle of change and what the cycle of change is and how that progresses along through that cycle.
Okay.
So obviously the first one is pre-contemplation, and that is not thinking about it. So that's when you're just kind of going along and you're not really thinking about changing anything, right? You don't have anything in your mind that you really consider changing. Or there might be something, you might have an idea of something, however, just not really considering it, right?
You feel like it should change, but yeah, I'm really comfortable right where I'm at.
I got a lot of those.
Yeah.
I got a lot of those that probably should change, but I'm just not really thinking about it.
It's cool where I'm at. Nothing's happening, so why
Right.
fix it? Right. Yeah.
So that's pre-contemplation stage. Now, once you get past pre-contemplation, like maybe you get an idea in your head, then there's that contemplation stage where you're actively thinking about it. You're like thinking about the change. Okay, this is what I need to change, or this is what I want to change. And then you're kind of going through the ideas of your head of, you know, what that looks like.
Yes. I'm constantly thinking about what can I do better? And so I would say I'm in that stage, in that cycle, in that stage of the cycle often, but that doesn't mean that I'm quite in the next stage yet.
Right. It's an
Start the
idea
planning.
in your mind that you're actively thinking about it. Now, thinking doesn't always mean I'm going to do it.
Right.
It just means I'm thinking about it, And it could go from thinking to I'm not thinking about it anymore.
Yeah,
And it just stops right there.
And so before you stop and you really have something positive that you'd like to do in your life, but the thinking about it, you just can't get on to the next step. That's where we are so good at helping at Community Action, helping you look at the SWOT, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats. And so maybe we can even get you where you can start the planning. That's something that we do really well.
Sure. Anytime that we're able to help somebody in making a positive change in their life, we're totally
We're all
down
about it.
for, you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, that's what our program is for. That's what we like to do,
Right.
is to help people make changes. So, I mean, if there is people out there, if you're listening and you have something that you're like, I really would like to make this change in my life, but I'm just not really sure if it's the right change or if I can even do the change or if I can do it alone, then we're definitely here to help walk you through that if you need it, for sure.
Yeah, reach out to us.
So part of the planning is, I'm speaking for myself right now, okay? There's been several opportunities that I thought, oh, this would be so good. But because I haven't identified my weaknesses yet, I'm already planning on the exit, or what we like to call the black door. I don't close that door. I keep it open. So if I don't lose weight in, boom, X amount of time, or if I don't get this class done or this subject done, I'm not going to do it. So that
you've
could be
already-
defeating. I've already made plans to quit. Yeah.
So that's a good point. You are in your thinking and planning stage, and you're already thinking of a way to jump out.
Yep.
That's important to address and let people know that that is something that comes up, and there are back doors to where people can have an exit. But that's really when you're working on your plan, you want to try to create a plan to close that, so you're not going to exit trying to make that change, right?
Right. So if you're in the planning stage, like you've gone past the thinking about it stage and you're actively planning, like, this is how I'm going to make this change, or this is what I'm going to do differently. It's pretty easy to have a back door in there somewhere, because the thing about it is if we're making changes, it's difficult to do.
Yeah.
And then one other thing is, if for some reason that change doesn't work out, and we have this sense that like we're a failure, or like we didn't plan correctly. And so if we have a back door or something that's a justification that makes us, hey, I'm okay if this happens, then it's okay if I don't make this change and it falls through, It makes it easier in our minds to not follow through.
But sadly, that also keeps us from success, pushing ourselves with the tenacity to try it one more time. And so
But that's
the
okay.
back door, yeah, it's okay. You just can that's why we call it the cycle. Okay, it's a circular.
Sure. It's just the thing that we want people to be aware of is when you're planning and you're making a plan for a change, that you are aware of what those back doors are, and that you are making a plan to counteract those. You know what I mean? So like whether that is having an accountability partner, just whatever it is that's going to help you close that back door. So if that does pop up, you stay on the path. If
Right.
it's a change that you really want to make and it's a positive change for your life, and you want to make sure that you're actively making your plan that's going to work,
Absolutely, absolutely.
So now we're in the next stage of doing it.
So hopefully you have a plan that's laid out. You have, depending on what you're doing and what you're changing. I think you mentioned something about losing weight or something. So like if you're in the planning stage of making a change, like losing weight or gaining weight in my case, depending on what it is, it's nice to have that plan laid out. Okay, this is what my goal weight is going to be. This is what I hope to lose. Like, this is what I'm going to work type. This is what my exercise routine is going to be. Making a detailed plan of what that is really going to help you achieve it in the long run.
Right.
Right. So
Because it's a long run.
right. So when you're making a plan, hopefully you're taking this stage and like really making out a well thought out plan.
Right.
You know, and then when you start after that, you getting into the action. That's when you're actually have started that change and are starting to do those steps to get to that goal that you want to get to.
And I like that after you start doing it, then there's the maintenance. And so we have to be continually aware of our self-talk and meeting those goals that we planned to maintain until there's a success or a change, or maintenance is really important.
So maintenance, there you may have been successful in making that change, but you may need little tweaks here and there down the line to
Right.
continue to keep that change in going forward to
Right.
where you want it to be.
Right.
But if you don't do that maintenance, what could happen?
Relapse.
Sure. I mean, the thing about change is it's not always black and white.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always turn out the way we exactly want it to. So there's always going to be times when you're going to need to relook at it and like you said, maybe retweak it a little bit, you know. That way, whatever we're doing, it's not some unrealistic, like, because when we first get into something that we're going to change, we may think it's realistic, and it might be at the time, but then, you know, things change and life happens.
Yep.
And it may change and it may not be realistic anymore. And we might need to change it a little bit. That way we're not setting ourselves up for failure, you know. We would rather somebody be moving forward in that change than to get to a point where they'll be like, this isn't working out the way I expected it to,
Right.
and then just to quit.
And that's why I don't like necessarily the word relapse, but that's the word they use. But relapse can have such a negative contemplation, or stigmatization, I guess is the word I want, because it's negative. However, stepping back I think is a better term than relapse. Stepping back, revisiting the goals and what happened and what I can change is a lot better than that.
I can tell you this section of the cycle of change I've been through here many of times with one thing. I have signed up and gone to college 3 different times. And the first time, it wasn't right for me at that time. And I was at the cycle of change where I hit that relapse. And it was several years later, then I decided I was thinking about it and then made a plan and returned to college and got some more, credits down on my belt. And then I stopped again and went through the cycle of change, thinking about it again, the planning it, and went to college again. And so just because you stop doing something or don't complete your cycle of change, I heard you guys say earlier, set yourself up for failure. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're a failure.
Exactly.
Because this cycle of change happens for every single change that is made. And so if you don't get all the way through, or maybe you do get all the way through and you decide to stop working on it, that's okay, that you're not a failure. You just think about the next time that is maybe the right time to start it again. And so taking a look and assessing what your situation is going to be number one key to continuing making changes.
So here's some words of encouragement. I went back the 4th time and made it and got my bachelor's. Okay, I was 54, but I did it, and by then it was just for me. But life happened, cycle change. I kept doing what you're doing. So good steps. Just keep those turtle steps going and get that. So
Yeah, the thing is just knowing that if you don't make the change and you decide to give up on it and retry it again, you can always restart it and redo it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's no reason to feel like, because I failed the first time, there's no use to try it again.
Yeah, shut those
You know
inner
what I mean?
voices off. Make it
Because there's always going to be change, and I talk about it how I don't like the word change, and it's it's just uncomfortable because it typically means work, and I already have enough work to do right now as it is. But it is important, you know what I mean, and so There's nothing wrong with going through that cycle multiple times, just as long as you're constantly thinking about it and moving forward.
And revisiting the plan. Yeah,
Yep.
revisiting the plan. That's why it's a circle. Yeah.
If you want to learn more about making changes and could use some support while you're doing it, please reach out to Community Action Partnership. We have a team of coaches that can come alongside you and support you while you're making changes in your life. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts, and we'll see you on the next video.
Right. Thanks.
See ya. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us today. Community Action Partnership is a nonprofit organization. All the services we provide are free of charge to income qualifying community members. What we talked about today is just a bit of what we cover in our coaching and workshops. For more information, you can check out our website at cap4action.org. That's CAP, the number 4, action.org. You could also just give us a call at 1-800-326-4843 or come visit one of our locations. We would like to thank our sponsor, Optum Idaho, for making this series possible.